Thank you, Emily. Okay, next presenter is a Prescott College favorite. He's been an organizer for 26 years. He has an American Studies PhD with a specialty in Chicano literature, and he is the co-director of the Social Justice Community Organizing program here at PC. You know him, you love him.
How do you not teach Chicano studies and call yourself an educational institution?
No more race! No more race! No more race! No more race!
I think the great boycott is a symbol. People around the country have been boycotting or been around for a long time, but nothing has really happened about it.
Some of the pesticides that we have targeted have already either been restricted or banned entirely. So the boycott is working.
For once, we had an organization in a big university that was prominent, here in the Midwest that was saying no more.
I have to let them know we're here and we're not going to take it anymore. Come on, get lost. Come on, everybody. Let them know.
Viva la raza! Enough with the lies, the broken promises, the negligence with this university's administration.
The ability to develop your own narrative historically is huge. I mean, it's the reason why white people do it.
Being an African American within Mecha, I knew where I came from, and I was proud of my history. I wanted to learn about other people's struggle as well. If anybody's struggling, we're all struggling together.
We want Chicano studies at this university!
It was the smartest kinds of demonstrations that I have ever seen.
The controversy continues tonight over Lansing's newest street sign, which reads Cesar Chavez Avenue.
A slap in the face to the Hispanic community and to the greater minority community.
Got up and I said, I'm going to do this today. I want a street. I want a street for me and mine. So I literally called the state journal and said, hey, my name is Paulo, and I'm going to rename a street in Lansing.
Using library books as their weapons, Chicano and Latino students at MSU demand the administration's attention.
And saying, you won't believe what just happened, but the students just pulled up a U-Haul to the front of the library, and they're starting to check out essential periodicals.
They could have not checked out any book to us, but how would that have looked? We refused to let a bunch of brown people check out books from the library, and we would have made a lot of hay out of that. That's for damn sure.
And so, the thing with ethnic studies, it gives us this belief and concept that our history matters. And you actually start to learn it and realize that, that we were contributors.
Do as much as you can while you're students. That is the most unique time in your life that you're going to be able to really have time to read about your history, to learn about your culture, and to apply those things that you learn to move issues forward.
Relationships come in many forms. The documentary that you just watched the trailer for is by some people's estimation, or could be by some people's estimation, simply a historical film about a social movement, and on many levels they wouldn't be wrong. But to me and the people who walk that path of resistance, it is first and foremost a story about love among ourselves, our families, and our small Midwest Chicano community. It is about the relationships that are forged in battle and sacrificing for what we hope is the greater good. For myself and my friends, the journey to reclaim our indigeneity, to reclaim our history, was one born from our university education. As Chicano students, we looked around the giant campus that we had arrived at, and we began to uncover in our minds the disparities that we had lived with our entire lives. The reality that some histories were more important than others became unrelentingly apparent. As we searched for knowledge about who we are, about our community, about our people, we came to a dire realization. That knowledge, our history about us, was completely absent from one of the largest universities in the world. It was a bitter, bitter pill to swallow. On my first day on the campus of Michigan State University, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by the explosion of blonde hair and blue eyes. It shook me to my core as I walked around, assaulted by the complete absence of even one other person who looked like me. Up to that moment, I had spent my life a mere 2 miles away from campus. immersed in the familiar surroundings of my black and brown family. And in my life, I had never seen a place where there were only white people. It is not an exaggeration to say that at that moment, I was intimidated, I was scared, and I was a little lost. But I made it my business to seek out other Chicano Latino students, and I soon found what I was looking for. I found my tribe. And I breathed a real sigh of relief when I finally saw with my own eyes that I wasn't the only one there. And from that moment to this day, those brave Chicanas and Chicanos have remained my staunchest allies, my dearest friends. I also realize now that our confrontation with the university, a fight that you saw featured in this trailer, was inevitable. As we gathered together, almost every one of us, the first in our family to attend college, some of us were one generation from the fields. We came to the collective agreement that it was our duty to speak truth to power, to expose the hypocrisy of higher education, and to force Michigan State University by every means at our disposal to acknowledge the history of Chicano people in the United States. That battle, with its ebbs and its tides, was long, almost 9 years, and there were casualties. Students who sacrificed their education for an undetermined future. But it was this communal sacrifice that brought us together, that cemented the relationships we began as a way to comfort ourselves on this foreign land that's called a campus. Those relationships, born from a need for comfort and security, turned to something much deeper. They turned to the love of justice, the love of community, the love of our indigenous nation. And after almost 3 decades of organizing work, it still surprises me sometimes how deeply a single event can impact the psyche of a group of people. It was February 10th, 1994. The push for the Great Boycott had started. And on this day, we were fortunate to have with us Dolores Huerta, who was one of the founders of the United Farm Workers Union. All day long, we had been sending packages of grapes to the president of the university, President Peter McPherson. And on those grapes, we had written little notes. These grapes are watered with the blood of migrant workers. Cancer rates for farm workers are 90% higher than they are, well, actually 90, it's not even 90. It's like 400 times higher than they are in the general population, because the issue was around pesticides. And at 4 o'clock, at least this many people, the people that are in this room, walked up 4 flights of stairs chanting, "Here we come, here we come." And when we got to the top floor, we went into his office, but he wouldn't come out. Didn't want to come out. He was scared, and I don't blame him. But we didn't leave, and eventually we forced him into the next room, which was the Board of Trustees room, which is a room that's just a little bit longer than this one. And there's a giant table that's in the middle of it. And we took seats all around the table. They filled up the gallery, and we began debating. Dolores, you saw Dolores talking in the trailer. That's video from that day. The conversation went on, the conversation went on. And then finally, McPherson, feeling sort of frazzled, starts talking about manifest destiny and about Indians on reservations. And my homie that I grew up with, Tony Spangler, reaches under the table, he grabs this bag of grapes and he throws it on the table. Boom! The whole room starts getting kind of squirrely, right? Everybody starts like, there's a buzz that starts happening. And then Julie Salazar and this other sister, both of them from Detroit, reach over and they grab the bag and they rip it open. And then they start throwing the grapes all around the room. And then they start throwing them at McPherson. The whole room explodes. Chairs are tipping over. People are screaming. There's all kinds of pandemonium. And I'm sitting right here in the front. And I look at this man and he says, "You get down from there." And I turn around to see Julie Salazar standing on top of the Board of Trustees table, stomping grapes. Chicanos won that day. Our collective outrage, despair, and love for our families, that was the momentum. No more silence, no more shame, no more hiding. We literally stormed out of the shadows, and with a loud voice, we shouted, Tehuacin te Mexicat, somos mexicanos. We are Mexican. And it was a fearsome thing. I had never seen anything like it. That instant of collective spontaneous rebellion became a pivotal point in all of our relationships. Like that moment when you say to someone, I love you. They are either in or they are out. That's right, because love is not lukewarm. That's right. So we continued to fight together and sometimes with each other over the next 6 years, until February 18th, 1999, when we delivered what would become the final blow that would give life to Chicano studies at Michigan State. You notice the book checkout. It was very simple. By 1999, we had become extremely notorious. We sent out a press release. There's going to be an action. There's going to be a MECHA action at the library. When we got there, the TV cameras were already lined up. And they said, what are you guys going to do? And then my boy Tomas rolled up with the U-Haul truck. And all the reporters looked at the U-Haul truck, and then they looked back at us. And Rosa Salas, dear Rosa, stood up in front of those TV cameras, and she said, we are going to check out as many books from the library as we can. And the reporter said, hey, why are you doing this? And Rosa said, because if we can't read about our history, then you can't read about yours. And then we went into that library and we checked out 5,000 books from the library. We put them in the back of that U-Haul, we locked that door, and we drove away. It is not an exaggeration, because it's not, to say that Chicano Studies was funded that day at Michigan State University. My life would never be the same. If you want to change the world, if you want to change your life, you must develop meaningful relationships based on common struggle. Give yourself over to something that's greater than yourself. Practice love, practice mercy, practice empathy. When I joined Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán at Michigan State University, I did that for myself. Not to feel alone, not to feel powerless, but it became so much more. The relationships I forged during that time have shaped the course of my life to this day. I am who I am, not because I'm special or unique or determined, because I am in fact all of those things. We all are. But it is those qualities, when they are mixed with the catalyst of our comrades, our fellow travelers, that make personal refinement possible. The endless opportunities for change and development that are given to us in those very private moments of our relationships, when we decide, away from public scrutiny, who it is that we truly want to be. These Chicano students, my friends, my family, changed a small part of the world. They really did. And that change was created through deep relationships built on love, dignity, and a fierce loyalty to their indigenous nation. I am proud to say that I was a part of that and that I am still a part of that. Thank you.